Last time we talked about beverages, and we had coffee, and then we had chocolate, and how the origin and all of that. So I thought before, and we can do, and we will do more of that kind of thing as we approach the different subjects, okay? We'll introduce some more stuff. But the first question you have to ask, these people that came and settled, okay, who are they? Where did they come from? Okay, it's important to understand that. You know, it is one thing to be talking about the English, and quite another thing to be talking about Iberians. I mean, but you'll be the judge, okay? So today we're going to deal with that subject. Who were these people? Okay, and it is, of course, Iberia, and that's Spain plus Portugal, all right? And it's the line of the Iberos that are the ones that we know were originally there. We think they came from Africa. None of this is safe. It's sort of supposition. So good suppositions there based on some facts, okay? So today you already have this, and this is what we're going to try to cover, all of it, okay? Yes, there will be a rest period. Okay. If we go to and we'll begin here, you can go farther back than this. We do have evidence for this, that it was settled by various people, that is Iberia, various people, the Astors, even on the Bronze Age. All of these means that they have found, the archaeologists have found evidence that there were Bronze Age people living separately in the Iberian Peninsula way back. So we begin with this. Then just before the Carthaginian conquest, and they did conquest part of Spain, not all of it, we know there were all of these tribes. Tribes mean a group of people that are organized in some kind of a government. The government they had varied from one tribe to the other, but they were there, and you had the Astures, the Cantabri, then down here you have the Turdetani. These were actual nations, so to speak. They were really bigger than just tribes, you know. And they had their own customs, and they had even their own languages, okay? You see, all of this is based on the philological study of the languages they spoke. And you have here the Turdestani, Tartessian, Celtic, Iberian, Aquitanians. All of these people were there, like I said, separate, speaking these languages. So it's a very complex, if you compare it to other nations, certainly to ours here, even including the Indians, they're not that complex, okay? But this was. And then, of course, the Romans came. And Romans like order. You know, we know that. You have to behave, okay? So they said, well, the best way to take care of this stuff here, these groups of people, they divided it in provinces. You had Lusitania, was one of the provinces. Each had a proper governor, we'll translate it as a governor. And then there were Tarraconenses that went all the way this, and then Baetica. So they had 3 governors, okay? The Romans always had 2 proctors, you see. They didn't trust having one. The temptation was too great. So they always put 2, kind of watch each other, and every decision they made, they had to agree. It worked for them. So the Roman period lasted close to 300 years, depends on where you want to start counting, okay? And towards the 4th and the 5th century, we know they said the barbarians came. No, it was not that way, okay? Simply they asked in the frontier with the Roman Empire, the Romans didn't have enough men, people, and the so-called barbarians, they were not barbarians, they simply asked, hey, we need land, will you let us, and we'll work the land. They said, come on. And this was a phenomenon that went on for actually a couple of centuries. In the end, that is Europe, okay? So what we were taught when I was little, these barbarian hordes came and wiped out everything. Not at all true, not at all true. They blended, okay? The Visigoths, and they are the ones that pertain to Spain. This is what they did. They came out, probably, we don't know this, probably either pushed by other tribes or groups of people, or more likely by hunger, looking for food. So they came on down, all the way to Greece, up the Balkans, went down to Italy. They really didn't like it. So they kept on going, crossed the Pyrenees, and around after 418, they went into Spain. What there was in Spain was really a disorganized remnant of the Roman types people that had mixed with the Iberians. They had not a well-organized government of any kind. So it was very good for the Visigoths. There was not that much fighting. They just moved in and sat there, and they were organized. They had very good, there were divisions among them, but generally their form of government was not monarchical. They had a so-called boss man, but they typically had 10 to 12 people, which were high status, and they would get together and agree on a leader, which was for 10 years. After 10 years, they would repeat this, so that the next guy could not be related to the last guy. So it was not a monarchical system. It was very good, and it lasted and gave us stability and peace for a long time. Okay. In the end, they quickly extended, so it's part of southern France and part of Iberia, except for the Swedes in the beginning. With time, that developed. So they had the whole of the Iberian Peninsula, again divided. And notice how they tried to follow the original tribes. So you have the Lusitanians in Lusitania. You have the Carthaginienses, because Cartagena was the capital of Carthaginian Spain, okay? Then you have Baetica in the south, and so forth. And here, Tarraconensis, which is what corresponds today to the Catalan and the Aragonian groups. They were later known as the Franks, okay? So this was the Visigothic Spain. A problem with them, and you can see from their form of government that this could easily develop. They started not agreeing with each other. So it was peaceful for the common people, but they established themselves sort of, not a nobility, but a ruling class, really did not mix that well. But they did fight with each other a lot. No, I gotta have my land, or I gotta have this, no, you said this, whatever. This was a matter of, in the beginning was not that serious, but you'll see what happened, okay? What happened was this, and that was Islam, when all of it spread. Remember, Arabia, Muhammad, and so on, okay. In the beginning, there was the Rashidun Caliphate. We're not concerned with that because all of that happened in the Arabian Peninsula. They hadn't gotten out of there. And then there was what they call the Umayyad Caliphate. They did get out of Arabia and ruled from Damascus and Baghdad all the way eventually to Spain. This is important to keep it, the Umayyad for Spain. Okay. These, as usual, the Abbasids kicked them out, but not in Spain. It was too far away for the power of Damascus to influence Spain. So the Umayyad said, we don't agree with you. You want to come, come. They didn't come. Okay. We will fight you. Yeah. And then went into this. So this is it. I don't know what this means, but I think it's related to that. If somebody here knows Arabic and can instruct me, and it will have to be classical Arabic, I don't know. But anyway, I put it there because I saw it together. I have no clue. I hope it's not a bad word or anything like that. Okay. So we started with the Rashidun Caliphate that was from 632 to 661, and they had reached all the way east to Persia and west to what is now Libya. Okay. And they kept going. And here you have a much better, this is the original, this is the Islamic Caliphate, and this is when they started really extending to what became, they didn't call it an empire, they would call it a caliphate, one single, okay. So this is Gibraltar, and they came to Spain, 711, so it was quick. And a group of them, it's only, I think it's 15 miles, it's very short, and you can see it from one to the other. And Jebel al-Tariq, okay, he sends a group, this is a commander of the Muslim armies, sends a group across to see what was going on. And the guy got back, beat up the Visigoths, and reported, it'll be easy. They are disorganized, they're ready for the taking. So then they send an army. By the way, the word Gibraltar, Jebel al-Tariq, comes from there. So they quickly took the southern part, very southern part of Spain. Today would be Cadiz and all that area. Okay. And they had a good one. Oh, they had a good one. They had a lot of fun here. The Battle of Guadalete. And it was in the, now we begin to have precision on the date because there are documents that we have access to and survive, both on the Arab and on the other side, okay? The battle was, as I said, between the Visigoths and the Berbers from North Africa, okay? We don't know precisely, this we don't know precisely. The chronicles that survive say they was fought next to a body of water in the general area of the Guadalete River. So historians say, okay, well, we'll call it the Battle of Guadalete. That's all there is. Okay. In 711, as I said, it's unidentified. We know the general area because the river is there. We know that it was close to the river. Tariq ibn Ziyad, this is the second guy that came. The battle was significant because as a combination, a series of Berber attacks, they kept feeding from North Africa, feeding from, okay. Okay. This is a summary. I got it. 711, near a body of water in southern Spain. It was a decisive victory for the Umayyads. Okay. Guy named Rodrigo, that's my name, he didn't do well. He didn't do well at all. In fact, he died fighting, to his credit. Okay. And the problem he had is that the Visigoths didn't trust each other. So there was a center and there were the flanks, the usual, since time immemorial, this military disposition. So he attacked and expected his flanks to come and help him. One did, and the other one refused to help him. Of course, the Muslims quickly realized that, and rather died fighting and lost the battle. Okay. We'll be talking a lot, quite a few battles. Let me make clear, because we're conditioned to the 20th and the 21st century. A battle means maybe there were 100 divisions on one side and so many others, so it's hundreds of thousands of people. A big battle at that time was maybe 20 to 30,000 men, both sides. Okay. So they wouldn't even classify as an alley fight today, but they were real battles. People died. Okay. In the mid-morning, the Muslim force weathered several frontal attacks, and they will respond. Okay. Stop them and respond. And this went on. Finally, okay. And these were probing attacks. And finally, he decided to go for broke and threw his whole army and got destroyed. That's very simple. Battle probably lasted 3 or 4 hours, no more than that. That's all the Visigoths had. Once they were defeated there, the Muslim armies quickly took one town after another, and then even went to France. Except for this. Now I remind you, and I'll show you the map. These are all mountain areas. Okay. Arab armies were used to fighting in flatlands. Okay. Cavalry and so forth. Not so used to mountain fighting. Different game, different strategies, different tactics. Okay, I'll go a little more on that. When they went into France, they met with this guy, and that's Charles Martel. The battle was near Poitiers. We call it the Battle of Tours. And that was an interesting battle, because this guy was classical. He had the lines, formations in line, had the flanks, the center, and so on. But was more than that. First, he had a brain, and he had sent observers, explorers, sappers, to see what the Moors were doing. And they reported back that they would take a town, stop to loot it, and then would carry all this loot with them. Translation. They are slowed down in military terms, because they would fight, but then they would go back to see nobody had taken their loot. So this guy, oh really? So what he did, very simply, he put a line to resist and then send a flanking movement to get the looters. So in the end, the Moors had one in front, and in the back had this guy too. You had to leave. That's an artist's conception of what's going on. Okay. Here's the cross, okay. And these are the Moors. These are the Moorish cavalry, what they look like. They love to have a lot of panache and stuff like that. You see, I think you can see the round shields. Okay. All right. So they get back to Spain. The Umayyad essentially gave up in going any. They had plenty to do here. and they established, they continued, you know, managing the towns that existed. But they did found Cordoba in their town, or Ishbilia over there. These are towns that now have other names, but they were founded by these people. And now I go back. I said I was going to explain to you that. This is Spain. Physically, I think there is no other country except Afghanistan that has this kind of setup. It's not an easy place to fight. If you go in there, you are going to suffer. And you quickly should adopt the natives' way of fighting, which isn't just guerrilla. It's a war of movement and piecemeal. Piecemeal. Where is the enemy? They don't give me this. The enemy is all around you, sir, but you don't see it. That kind of thing. And this is to give the names. You got the Sistema Bético, the Sierra Morena, always famous for bandits and people like that. And then you have the central system. And then remember, I said all of this, mountains. This is important. You do have flatlands, so you could do an invasion through that, come through this path and go on, and then you begin to have problems here. Maybe you will get that far. Okay. Okay. This is to show if you have an army and it's a flat land like that, and you're limited in numbers, that's what's going to happen. You'll have everybody around you, and may God help you. But if you're smart, and you have a place like Spain, this is what you do. Choose your place. Numbers will not matter now. But they got you funneling here. They have some kind of superhero here holding a whole army. This is one of Dore's drawings, okay? So that. And this is exactly what happened here. In Covadonga, in northern Spain, the Moorish armies came, and you have here with what they call a harlequin throwing his stuff, and here's Don Pelayo, and the Moors are here, and they don't know what to do. But these guys know what to do, so they creamed them. This is a little chapel. This is what it looks like today. I don't think this is in the exact place where it happened. I don't see the cave, but there was a cave involved. But anyway, this serves as a cave, and they got, of course, a little chapel, thanking the Lord for the victory and so forth. And this is Don Pelayo. I don't think anybody knows what he looked like, but some sculptor decided that he looked like that, so they have to have one, so they have Don Pelayo over there. Okay. So they are stopped there. The Moors are stopped there. They know there's going to be hard fighting, cost-benefit ratio, so they leave the Asturians and all these northern people relatively quiet. But they were not quiet. They were not quiet. They started pushing. And you see in 711, the Moors came. This is the situation in 1790. They now have pushed down. It was the kingdom of Asturias that was Christian. Okay. And then in 900, they extended a little farther out. And in the end, about 1031, this was the situation. The blue line separated what were the Christian kingdoms. Notice I said plural, kingdoms, not one, kingdoms, from the Muslims in the south. And this area here was contested. Was anybody. There was fighting going on. and getting together too. So you ask, excuse me, I'm getting ahead of myself. This is fun and games. When we are talking about fighting, it's this kind of fighting. It's not a rifle and the enemy over there. No, 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 no. The enemy is right in front of you, okay? And he's got this tremendous ability to use the weapons, and the shield, and the very long sword, which is characteristic of the Iberians. All right? So they're having fun, okay? Okay. See the half moon and the green flag, and this is the Christians. They're going at each other. A little more, okay? Here, of course, the Virgin shows up, okay? She's blessing the Christian army. Somebody saw the Virgin, okay, in there. So that this is characteristic too. In one of the battles, somebody saw St. James on a white charger, held right above the Christian armies. And of course they won. Of course St. James was there, the patron saint of Spain today, St. James, okay? We're talking about fighting and so forth. How'd they fight? Every time, you know, I read books about battles and military actions, well, you have to have food, okay? But food that you can carry, and that would be simple and not too much weight, okay? So that, and I gave you the recipe in one of the handouts. You have sopa castellana, garlic soup with eggs. You could have eggs or not, but basically onions, hard bread, garlic, okay, and a little something else. Very easy. The bread was very hard, heavy, so it was very easy for a cavalryman to carry these things. And don't forget, you had a calabash with water and the other one with wine. So you were set up now. That's it. You can move quickly. Okay. There were minstrels, juglares, okay? And they went in this contested zone, looking at battles and making songs. It's telling that there was no TV, no writing, no nothing. So the people that carried the news were the minstrels. And they combined music with long poems where they rhyme or not rhyme, whatever, and people came in and went over in every town to listen what had been going on, okay? So they were juglares. And they would have, they look like that. And this is a modern version. So they come in and they have some kind of a basic music, guitar, chords, and flutes, and drums, and so forth, and rhythm. Okay. And I say that because they came up with a written description based on the minstrels. And this did exist. It's real. It's El Cantar, the song of the Mio Cid. Okay. There is only one single, this little book, or whatever it was. There's only one single left, and that is very sacred to the Spanish. It is in the National Library there. It's not complete. It's missing the front and page number 7. Nobody knows what happened. But it is in Spanish, not in Latin. It is in Spanish. So it's the Cantar de Mio Cid, literally the song of my Cid. Okay. Also as the poem. Okay. So this came out of that. We're beginning to get a culture, okay, vernacular language being used, not Latin. This is for the people, Okay? Remember, the minster had to go around. Okay? And we come to this guy. This is accurate. The beard is accurate. That's what they look at. Well, you weren't visiting anybody, so you were on a horse. Let it grow. Who cares, you know? The proportion of the sword to the man is correct. It's a long, heavy sword. And he was known as El Cid Campeador. Campo in Spanish means field, something like that. But campear means to go fielding, fighting. So it's the, and the Arabs, who knew him very well, some were his friends. They fought together. And some of the Muslims, I should say Muslim, there were no Arabs here. The Moors fought against Moors, fought against Christians, Christians fought against vice versa. They got together, they allied with each other. Religion had nothing to do with it. This was a matter of power and land. Why? Taxes. If you got a town, you got taxes, okay? So you got money coming in, okay? But it's Rodrigo Diaz de Vivar. Oh, Rui was the medieval name, Rui. Okay. This is in Burgos. Last July, one of my favorite writers, Perez Reverte, took it very seriously and looked at all the evidence for the existence and the doings of this guy. The cantar is correct, found nothing wrong with it. The person existed, that it was a superb warrior. He says that Europe never produced a warrior of this kind and quality. When asked, what is your profession? He said to us, war. I am a warrior. That's it. Okay. And he says, a tale from the frontier. So he's referring to this frontier between the Christian and the Moorish or Muslim groups. Not much different from us here. Remember the pioneers going? We had the frontier too, and a lot of fighting going on, okay? El Cid becomes famous. He had his own group of men, his own little army, and the king of Castile dies, okay? And his brother takes over. And all these groups had to then pay allegiance to the new king. Well, El Cid wasn't ready for that because he had heard that the king Alfonso had killed his brother Sancho. So he said, can you imagine that? Before I can give you my allegiance, you have to swear that you had nothing to do with the death of your brother. So they got together very formally in Santa Gadea. And here's the king on the Bible swearing that he had nothing to do with the death of his brother. So then the El Cid said, okay, now we are. But the king didn't like that. He said, well, okay, but it's my right to throw you out of the kingdom. So he banished him. Get out of the kingdom. And then he said, but I will always remain loyal to you wherever I am, which he did. Okay. That's the cathedral. That's this El Cid. Spain has two heroes, two national. He's the first one, El Cid. And the other one, which I wish I could tell you, but we'll have to go to the 1700s, and that is the Cartagena guy. Let's leave it there. Okay. This is where the swearing took place. Santa Gadea, now they call it of the Cid. And you notice here, this is the coat of arms, and he has this. He has a hand, and this is the Bible. This is where, in this place, where the king was asked to swear.
Oh,
So,
I'm so sorry.
so that exists. Okay.
Forgive me.
Back to the Moors. Okay. So then, with time, the Moors, Muslims, got together, and of course had to have a caliphate of Cordoba there. It has been, you can read it any way you like, but the presence of the Muslim culture in Spain was fantastic, really. It can be argued, and argued easily, because the papers are there, the documents are there, that there would be no Western culture as we have it without Al-Andalus. All came out of Cordoba. Anyone north? But always this. This is the coat of arms of Andalusia, the southernmost government of Spain. And you see that the green has two green bars, and for Andalusia, yes, for Spain, yes, and for humanity. And this is the tradition that harks back to that period. As it always happened, it wasn't long before power things, people in power, they started dividing into small governments, each with a chief, and they were the kinglets, the Taifa kinglets, okay. That weakened the position of the Muslims in Spain, weakened because they were always fighting with each other, or every now occasionally they would deal with the barbaric, they call them barbarians, Christians in the north. It was easy life, very easy life. Cordoba, I showed you, nice buildings, nice everything, lots of intellectual activity, but not so much on the military. They got weakened. So while the Muslim side was weakening, the Christian side was the opposite, was getting stronger and stronger. Yeah, there was religion, sure, but there was also, they were producing more men, so there was. Okay. So when they started weakening, then they got worried that the Christians were coming. So they went back to Africa and called for the tribes that were very believers, very really Muslims. Please come and help us. And they were really good military men. So they came in, and the first time were the Almoravids. That didn't last long. They also got weak quickly. And then the Almohads came. They lasted a lot longer, and they were much better soldiers, okay? So that prolonged what I'm arguing is that that prolonged and explained why the Muslims were that long in Spain, or why the Christians, it took that long to push the Moors out. Okay, that was the realm. Something very important. I think we better stop here, okay? Because it's a good point. Let's continue. All right. There is Alphonse VIII. Spain went all the way to Alphonse XIII, so there are quite a few Alphonses that you can get confused with. And I do get confused. But anyway, this is the eighth. The Almohads came, and they defeated him in the Battle of Alarcos. Okay, so he went over, he retired over the Sierra Morena, that's the southernmost, okay? And then in 1211, Muhammad al-Nazir crossed that powerful army and took Salvatierra. And that was important because that town was ruled and held by the Knight Templars and so on. So this was kind of a shock. They said, these guys, if they can defeat these guys, they're going to clean up, okay? All right? So Alfonso called the other kings, the one from Navarre, the one from Asturias, and so forth, the one from Portugal. He said, look, we got this situation, and I think Christianity is really in trouble. We need to get together because these guys are good fighters and so forth. So they came, and they gave battle, and that is 1212 was the Battle of Las Navas de Tolosa. It's probably the most significant battle in Spain in that it assured the Christianity of Spain. Okay. In this battle, if they had lost it, the Almohads would have taken over the whole peninsula. Okay. The battle in Arabic is Al-Uqab, and Alphonse VIII of Castile was joined, like I said, by the other kings. And by the way, they didn't necessarily get together. They fought among each other, but this one they said, we got to get together. Okay. And they did. The Caliph, in Spanish, Miramolin al-Nazir, had the Almohad army, most of the men, the army from the African side of the empire, Morocco. Okay. According to legend, the Caliph had his tent surrounded by a bodyguard. I'll show you. Navarrese forces, this is from on the border in the Pyrenees, so they came all the way down. Sancho VII. I'll show you what happened in the next one. They're waiting there, okay, looking at each other, waiting for an order to attack. Well, Sancho didn't like that, so he attacked on his own. I'll show you. This is a plan, a facsimile of what happened. The Arabs were here, or the Muslims, I should say, be careful, okay. And they made themselves strong and fixed. It was a fixed position. The Christian forces were down here. They had cavalry on both sides. Yeah. Well, King Sancho was over here, and they wait, and they wait. But he said, you know, this wait is sapping the moral troops. So he himself personally, I wish our leaders today would do that, you know, and attacked with what he had. And this is an artist's conception, fairly accurate. They had the Moorish forces, Muslim forces, would go down to Ghana and get good-looking, strong men. They would then convert him to the Muslim faith and train him in the military. And what they expected them to do is to form, then they chained them. They would chain them in a place where they wanted to be strong. And they all had, of course, the swords and so on. And the idea is that this will break any cavalry charge of the enemy. That was the thought. It didn't happen that way. I don't know why, but I come from agriculture. I do tend to think that an Arab horse is one thing, and a Castilian horse is a hybrid between Arab and then the Northern European type horse. And you get the Andalusian horse. which jumps. Oh, it jumps. And it did that. That decided the battle. Christians lose a lot less. Remember what I said. These battles were at most 20,000 men total on both sides. So they're, by our standards, they were little bitty fights, okay? The Caliph, he scrambled out and then went back to Morocco and died over there. Okay. This to me is very important. Our political leaders should take this as an example. There were several, what they call orders, warriors. The Templars being one of many. But there were the Knights of the Order of St. James, of the Order of Calatrava, and so forth. Almost all of their leaders died fighting here. And that was a significant, explains the why, and the why they were able to destroy because these guys would do war. Half monk, half warrior. That was there. Okay, there is some monument, of course. And there is a museum. And if you're around there, it's not too far from the road, main road. There it is. Okay.
Where is that in Spain?
I'll show it.
Oh.
That's what it looks like. So it's in the Sierra Morena. Yeah, explains you the whole thing. The museum has all kinds of stuff pertaining and collected from the battle place. You got that. This is Moorish stuff, captured. And this. People forget this, you know. This is true all over Europe. They had this iron things that you put on the ground, and always, no matter how you threw them, there was a point up. So the horse would be charging, step on one of those, or the infantry would be coming, and they would step on this, and they were out of commission. Okay. Okay. It was here. The battle took place here. Here is Cordoba. Here is Las Navas de Tolosas. Okay. It was right here, right there. Oh, of course, you got to have a monument. So there is a monument to the Battle of Las Navas de Tolosa. I don't know, these are artist conceptions based on, so who knows? Okay. So now the Muslim part of Spain has been pushed to something like this. See, that little, it's only what, Granada, Almeria, Malaga, this is for Marbella. Tourists go, you know, to Maiden. They have no clue of what went on in this area. Malaga is here. Malaga is a port. So in all the fights, okay, and this is why the Almohads and all the other warriors that came from Morocco could do so and help their Muslim friends in Spain, but they would always go to the port of Malaga. So it was very, very important to take, for the Christians to take Malaga and deny reinforcement. Okay. That happened later. Okay. After the Battle of Las Navas de Tolosa, they had nothing. the Muslims had nothing of an army. So quickly, one by one, all the main cities came into Christian hands. And it was very quick. Like I said, they had nothing. They had been destroyed. So you had 1244, Écija, 1248, Sevilla, Jerez de la Frontera here. In 1340, an attempt was made by the North Africans to come and help in force. And it was a huge battle here at Rio Salado. They were defeated by the Christians. So from there on, there was no more help from North Africa. Okay? Now we're going to jump. 1453. I used the term Malaga. This is the situation. You got Portugal, and notice, I've already said the Portuguese were involved very closely on this, and really, as far as fighting, they were much better men than the Castilians. They really knew the business. The Portuguese view of the Moors was very different from the Castilians. The Castilians had had the frontier and time to intermarry and know the Muslims and so forth. That was not the case in Portugal. Portugal wanted no part of that. Okay? They were perhaps much more deeply Christian. So they would take a town and either leave or chop everybody out. No Muslim, you know, convert or die. And they were very effective. In the Castilian very much wanted them as allies. And you notice, for example, they quickly got all the way down, and then they went over to Ceuta, that's misspelled, which was first a Portuguese possession. Yeah. First in Africa, you know, from the Christians. So you see, Sonny? Okay. So this is what was left. It's Granada. Okay. Tough. Mountains, old cities. Okay. So there is a war. The war was triggered by the Battle of Salado, where it was shown that the North Africans were willing to continue to feed the Muslims' armies in Spain. They had signed a treaty, and they broke it. I think the treaty was a setup, because they knew they were going to break it, and the Christians were ready for more war. It lasted 10 years, 1482 to 1492. Okay. This was Granada. Okay. This is the territory that had been taken by the Christian prior to the war. Okay. That's Fernando, and that is Isabel. And this was Abu Abd al-Muhammad XII, in Spanish, Boabdil the Short, El Chico. Okay. Have to realize that up to this point, the Christian side was divided into the kingdom of Aragon, that was Fernando, and the kingdom of Castile, which was Castile and Leon together, the Queen Isabel. And they ruled separately until here. Then they married and decided to act together. So you have the typical bars of Aragon and Castile. This is Leon, the lion, and this is the castles. So they got together, and that came in together. So that was right at the beginning of the war on Granada. Aragon was very important because they had a very good and tough army. Castile had enough, but wasn't so. You know, Portugal refused to get involved. They had done their job, and they didn't want any more. Okay, they were into Africa now, so they had another trading nation. You know, it ended. And we can go into, there were a lot of battles here, 10 years of it. It ended at 10 in the morning. We know that, approximately middle morning, 10 in the morning, on the 2nd of January of 1492. That is Boabdil Chico handing the keys of the town to Queen Isabel. And that was, from there on, there were no Muslims in Spain. So it was from 711 to 1490, January of 1492. Okay. All right. Let's get back to the Columbian Exchange now. Why all of this? Because the men that did the fighting, El Cid, and everybody that followed him, including this, were tough guys. They were true warriors, okay? And really knew the military science of the time. Perfect, okay? But when the war ended in Granada, they were out of a job. What do you do with all these people? It's dangerous to have so many well-trained, well-armed, very decided type. You know, they're good to have them around, but not too long. You know, they may get ideas, okay? So that was back here, okay? One of them was El Gran Capitan. They call him the Great Captain, okay? Why great? Look at his whole name. 1453 to 1515, okay? He did several things. But one thing he understood was the integration of cavalry with infantry, with firearms, to act in concert, you know, to move strategically and tactically with the cavalry coming and helping. This created what later became known as the tercio. This is a battle in France, much later, the Battle of Rocroi, which Spain lost. But this cadre of men never surrendered. The French could not break them. And it was this formation that the Grand Capitan developed. In the end, the French acknowledged they couldn't do it, and they were laid out with honors. They never turned in the flag. So that's how tough these guys were. The other parts of the Spanish army, they got butchered. Okay. You see, this is French, and this is the tercio, dealing with them. Okay. Who was this guy? A great strategist and tactician. I repeat, he was the first to introduce the successful use of firearms on the battlefield, and he reorganized his infantry to include pikes, firearms in effective defensive and offensive formations. For over 100 years, nobody in Europe could beat him. For more than 100 years. Okay. Granada's fall was euphoric. Wow, there are no Muslims anymore. And we got a tough army, so forth. So then, a lot of thoughts. they felt they had the ability to defeat the Turks going east. Okay, that was one possibility. And free Palestine, Jerusalem. Okay, they felt that, but it would be costly, very costly. It was aided and abetted by the fall of Constantinople to the Turks. They shocked them. They said, they're coming this way. So we gotta go and do something over there. Okay. That was one line of thought, but not all. This is what I stake up here. Okay. They knew this. They knew what there was there. Precisely. That's it. Sophia and this. The ramparts were famous for being very difficult to tackle. There would have been a lot of men killed. I think they would have taken it, but the price would have been very heavy. And then also the fact that they were distant from Spain, supplying, replacements and so forth. Okay. This is one of the paintings of Muslims entering Constantinople. What the Islamic power did was not, I think, realize that they had done. It was a cardinal sin. They had effectively closed the land routes to the east, to commerce. You see? There was a lot of commerce coming from the Indian Ocean up this way into Venice and the rest of the Mediterranean. Well, that got killed off or made very difficult. This is just right here, all that. Yeah. So basically they had, okay, we go east and expand and fight the Turks. Or, as Columbus proposed, no, let's go west. The earth is round, and we come and attack them from where they least expected. That's from the eastern side. I mean, that was discussed, okay? All right. We've seen that Iberia was settled by many people, and you got the Celts, the Iberians, the Phoenicians, the Carthaginians, the Greeks, the Romans, the Muslims, and so forth, plus, on top of all of that, the original tribes. Okay? So it's a complex situation. Okay? That the Arabs invaded. And we went in detail of what that meant. The Arabs, in my view, actually brought culture to Spain and Europe. I mean, very high culture. There was nothing. In Northern Europe, there was nothing, really. The victory of Granada ended it. It determined the future of Spain. Thanks.